Hi, this is Eric from longboxreview.wordpress.com. I'm going to do another pull list review, this time for comics that came out the first week of August. And first up is all new X-Men, number 15, Jean Grey and the Beast. Look at that, with Cyclops in the background going, no! Okay, so that's a really provocative cover, just in the sense of, X-Men history, where, Jean and Scott, they get married, troubles, whatever, Jean and Scott. Well, turns out Bendis has taken a little different tack here. Beast is trying to tutor Jean in the use of her telekinetic powers, and she's levitating some vehicles, one of which is Logan's motorcycle. You can probably guess where this is going, right? So she's concentrating and she's trying to do this, and she says she's trying to do something a little different. And basically, the motorcycle is levitating, and all of a sudden, choo, all the pieces just come apart. Everything is just kind of there in place. And she's talking about how she is concentrating really hard so as not to let everything fall. And then Bobby and Scott roar through the garage area on their way out to go just have some fun. And of course, all the pieces come tumbling down to the floor. At which point, Logan shows up, not happy. So he demands that Beast and Jean put it back together. And it was a really cute scene, or a cute exchange between Hank and Logan, because Hank is like, well, that's not really, that's a mechanical thing, and that's not really my forte. Logan, of course, wants to hear nothing of it. So they're working on it. Beast has the manual, and he's reading out loud what it is. But he's also, while he's reading it, he's thinking about Jean and how back when they were younger, he really wished he would have told her. With her being there and him working with her now, he realizes that he missed the boat. That he had loved her in the past, and he really wishes he could have told her that. Hindsight 2020 and all that. I don't know if that is actually continuity with the X-Men. I never read that early stuff, so I don't know if Beast actually did have a crush on Jean or not. But here's the thing. Jean heard him thinking this. So Jean, for some reason, goes and confronts her Hank, the young Hank, and says, why didn't you tell me that you love me? And of course, Hank is all, you shouldn't be reading my mind. And she said, I didn't. I read the older you's mind. And so they talk about it and actually end up kissing. Of course, this bit on the cover with Scott seeing them about ready to kiss doesn't happen in here. Another interesting bit in here, Rachel Summers, Scott and Jean's, right? Is it Jean's? Anyway, kid. This is from the Days of Future Past storyline, where I think Rachel was first introduced. My memory might be faulty there, but anyway, she comes back to the school, and there's a scene where her and Jean see each other, and they're just kind of staring at each other, and then you see the little pink, I don't know why they do pink, but they do this little pinkish flash out of their brains, out of their foreheads, to denote that they're doing their telepathy thing, and then they just leave. No words are spoken, they just leave. It's just, so obviously, I'm hoping anyway that something will happen or come of that. But it was just an interesting little kind of jokey scene. And that's kind of Bendis' style. He kind of throws in those little one-off joke type things in his stories, but I'm okay with that. I like it. There was a B story where, like I said, Bobby and Scott go off just to blow off some steam and just get out of the situation. They end up going to it looks like a farmer's market type thing or some sort of street fair or something like that. And they run into some girls and who think that it's really cool that they're mutants, and which totally blows Scott's mind. Because in their timeline, everybody's basically out to get them. So interesting perspective there. Next one I read, Mecomi Girls number 6. This is my final issue of this, and I think number 8 was solicited as the last issue of this title. This is a good issue to end on. I just chose number 6 because that's kind of what I do sometimes. I will read up to 6 issues if I'm liking a comic, but if it's not really keeping me interested, I'll drop it after 6. That's the case here. But the storyline, the current storyline that we've been reading, kind of ends here anyway. So it just happened to coincide with that. So anyway, it's all right. It's ending. So Avengers, part of the prelude to infinity. Number 17 by Hickman and Spencer. I'm loving this book. Hickman is just knocking out of the park on his stuff. But basically, at the very beginning of the Avengers title, there was a discussion about how the Avengers needed to get bigger, to think bigger. Well, they kind of get into that here, where Cap and Iron Man realize, so the creature ex nihilo, who basically started off the storyline in issue number 1, they've decided he needs to be an Avenger, along with his sister. I can't remember her name now. So that's going to be interesting. All right, Cyberforce number 5. Remember, Cyberforce came out. There's a Kickstarter, and you got the first 5 issues for free. Yeah. Yeah. If it wasn't free, I would never have gotten as many issues, because I found this comic confusing. And I don't mean that in the sense that I don't really know these characters from before. It's just that the writing, I have to say, was confusing and muddled, and it wasn't clear who was doing what. And although I will amend that to say, at least in this issue, I finally got a sense of what the story was about, who was involved, what their motivations were. But I just don't care enough to continue and actually have to pay for it. So, dodge that one. Here we go. Earth 2, number 15. Getting so close to the end of James Robinson's writing of this, which is really too bad. This is just basically an aftermath of the battle that the Wonders of Earth 2 had with Brutal, the Beguiler, and Bedlam. It was okay. Two notable things I'll just say. I'm enjoying the book. My previous comment makes it sound like I just don't care about this too much, but look at that lovely Nicholas Scott Hawk Girl design. I love the way this Hawk Girl looks. That helmet is awesome compared to some other Hawk people's headgear that we've seen in the past. And I just like the character. I wish they would do more with her and maybe less of Flash. That's really whose viewpoint we're getting in this story. And at the very end, we get yet another Wonder show up, and that is, oh boy, the new Red Tornado, who talks like an android or robot or whatever you want to call him. So we'll see how that goes. That was Earth 2. I also read FAIREST. This is issue 18. This is part of the. Hold on one second. This is part of the Return of the Maharaja storyline. What is his name in here. One of the fables. Oh man, he is Prince Charming. That's right. So Prince Charming is the lead protagonist in this story, and he is on this journey with. Oh my gosh, what is her name? Naliani. And so she's a storyteller. So, kind of taking a riff on the 1001 Arabian Nights tale. So he comes to realize that he loves her. She doesn't love him yet, anyway. But that's saying a lot for Prince Charming, who's been married 3 times and is pretty much known as a lech. So I'm enjoying this. The art on this is really good. This is by Steven Sadowski with Andrew Popoy on inks and Andrew Dahlhaus on colors. Looks really good. It reminds me kind of like Phil Jimenez work on this title when it first launched. That he did the first storyline there, so I like it. I enjoyed that very much. I don't read fables. I stopped. I did read fables. I read it in trade up to volume, I think, 10 or 11, and I just kind of stopped. I know a lot of people like that, though. Green Lantern number 23. Hal's really feeling the weight and responsibility of being being in charge of the Green Lantern Corps. He goes after the Star Sapphire character here, and doesn't come out well, as you can see in the cover. It's kind of indicative of what happens in the story too. But there's a lead into the next story arc. So Villains Month features one of the characters called Relic, I think it is, and for the 23 point whatever issue, and that he kind of shows up here in the end of this. So this is kind of a prelude to that, whatever that next big storyline. Robert Venditti is writing this now after Jeff Johns stepped away from it, and so far I'm liking it. I kind of wish they would move the plot a little along a little more quickly, because these last few issues kind of feel kind of slow, like they're filling in until they get to the next storyline, the next big Green Lantern event thing. Oh well. Helheim number 6. So Helheim, I decided, much like Mecomi Girls, I decided that I would quit after issue 6. And then I read it, and it seems like this is the end of the story. And at the very end it says, Helheim will return. So I'm not up on the news on this, so I assume that they're either... So it's kind of maybe like Saga, where they're just taking a break. But it seems a little bit more definitive than that. So I don't know if this was the plan to do 6 issues and then see how it goes and have a season 2, so to speak, of this, or if sales weren't that great but not totally bad, and maybe there's a combination of these things. I don't know. All I know is it was an okay story. I kind of expected more out of Cullen Bunn. I like some of the concepts, but mostly it was just this guy going after people and killing them, and that was pretty much it. Legends of the Dark Knight, number 11. This is... I got really mad recently because I saw that in the October solicitations, advanced solicitations, that this book would be ending. And this is my favorite Batman book. So I'm a little peeved about that it's going away. But unfortunately, number 11 here is my least favorite issue of this run so far. It features one of those, they do this all the time where, or I've seen this a lot, I should say, and not just in comics. TV does this, movies do this, where they describe there's an event that happens, and then you see the different takes on it from this character's perspective and that character's perspective, and that's what you get here. Batman fights Calendar Man. Not one of my favorite characters. at this event, some sort of stadium event, and 4th of July, that's what it is, the 4th of July event. And so you get it from one of the spectators' points of view, get it from Calendar Man's point of view, and then you get it from Batman's point of view. Suicide Risk. Okay, here's yet another comic that I've decided I would drop after, I think it's issue 5. At the end of the first storyline. Which now I'm rethinking, because what happens here is, suddenly Mike Carey has knocked it up a notch, because what you find out. So if you're not familiar with this comic, the main character is a cop, but he is in a world where there are superpowered people. Well, some of these superpowered people, well, they're bad guys. Some of them started out good and they ended up bad. His partner gets messed up in one of these fights with these superpowered beings, and the main character, whose name I can't remember at the moment, decides he's going to try and do something about it. He ends up getting powers of his own, because he finds out that these people are basically you pay them enough money, they'll give you powers. I don't know, I'm not sure how that works, but he gets powers. And then one of the bad guys that we had seen before in issue 1 shows up and takes him off. Well, she reveals that he is a reincarnation of another character that she had a relationship with in her previous life, and there's this goddess involved, and it's just that part of it, just like, wow, what are we getting into now? So now I'm really interested. So I guess I'll see what issue 5 is like, and then decide if I'm going to pick issue 6 up off the shelf and maybe get back on it. So we'll see. And finally, Superior Spider-Man, number 15. I'm still liking this book, even though Peter Parker's not really in it. It's Otto Octavius in Spider-Man's body. It's just a lot of fun. I've heard some people say that this is probably the most all ages comic that's being published these days. I can see that. It's just really interesting to see how Otto Octavius has taken Spider-Man's shtick and expanded on it, has improved on it, and yet he's still not that effective. I mean, in some ways, yes, but in other ways, it's not. We found out last issue, and this character appears in this issue again, but Green Goblin is back, and that's ever since they launched this whole idea of Superior Spider-Man and Otto in Peter's body doing his thing. I wanted to see a Green Goblin Superior Spider-Man fight, so I'm hoping I'm going to get my wish soon. So I'm enjoying it still. It's $3.99 though. If I wasn't getting this from my online comic provider, I probably wouldn't be reading it, because I can't see paying $3.99 for a 20-page story, even one as entertaining as this. So, all right, that's it. Those are the comics that I read from the first week of August. I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know what you think. Talk to me about the comics that you read from that week, things that I haven't read. I'd like to hear, what you're reading that I'm not reading. Maybe I'd be interested in those, and I'll spend even more money. But hey, it's comics. It's what I love, right? So, all right, that's it. Thanks for watching, everybody. Bye.